So, I have some good news, and I have some bad news. Should I start with the bad news? Okay. The bad news is, and I am so very deeply sorry to be saying this, summer is quickly coming to an end. But the good news, with the end of summer comes the beginning of fall. Fall's a season filled with new beginnings. Fall happens to be my favorite season, and I, for one, am very excited and hopeful for fall after spending the past few falls in the South where fall is but a name and not a temperature. Even though fall is my favorite season, I will tell you this has been an absolutely incredible summer for so many reasons. But most of all this, I have been completely, thoroughly, entirely, deeply welcomed to Kol Ami, to this community. This welcome went far beyond my first Shabbat in July, which was wonderful. But in addition to that weekend, there have been so many official welcome events, including the weekly gatherings in congregant homes where we got to know one another in a more intimate setting. But also, we had a Tot Havdalah outdoors with water toys and ice cream. We went to a Mets game together. We heard an amazing national anthem. To everyone who organized, hosted, and attended these events, I am so grateful to you for opening your homes and opening your hearts to me and to this congregation. Over the past 8 weeks, I have seen with my eyes and felt with my heart and my soul what some people only dream about, and that is a true, deep, heartfelt welcome. Welcome. It's a word we probably say a lot. We probably hear it a lot, too. Walking into a store or to a restaurant, an employee may yell from the back, "Welcome in." There might be a sign or a banner hanging over the entrances to schools in the coming week as we return for another year. And we all had it drilled into us from a young age. I don't like to test you on Shabbat, but I know you're going to know this one. When somebody says thank you, we know how to say, see? But for a word we throw around so often, I'm willing to bet very few people have really taken the time to think about what it means to welcome. When we welcome someone, truly welcome them, it goes far deeper than a simple word of greeting. And it takes a far longer time to really make it happen. Think about the home of a friend or a family member, one where you really feel welcome. What makes that home so inviting? What makes it a home instead of just a house? It's that when we walk through those doors, we are seen and celebrated for our truest selves. We don't have to put on airs. We don't have to dress extra fancy or even bring a bottle of wine, although it's nice when you do that. They would be excited to see you even if you're empty-handed. Because a real welcome is saying, I see you. I see you in all of your messiness and your accomplishments and your humanness, and I'm glad you're here. Hopefully you're thinking about someone in particular who makes you feel this way. I'm remembering the home of one of my best friends in high school. She lived across the street from the school, and so every day after school, whenever we didn't have a rehearsal for one type of performance or another, we would go to her house. We would eat snacks, we would do homework, we would spend time together with her and with her family. The real kicker is that half the time she wasn't there. She had other extracurricular activities, including the school newspaper, so she had to stay after school more than we did, and we were still welcome, even when we didn't have her with us. Which is pretty amazing, considering I'm sure their grocery bills were sky high. This kind of deep welcoming is baked into our Jewish kishkas. I'll say, for her sake, her family was Catholic, very welcoming. But it is Jewish. It's in us. We see it play out in our earliest stories. Abraham and Sarah, remember them? We'll get to them soon after the high holidays. We'll be talking about them again. Abraham and Sarah were known for their welcoming, and not just of friends, but of strangers. When 3 strangers come into their camp, Abraham and Sarah spring into action. Literally, Torah tells us Abraham gets up from under a tree and runs to welcome them, and he washes their feet. This is impressive, not only because he's very old by this time of the story, but also because what happens right before this, he's resting under a tree because he has just performed upon himself, a grown man, a circumcision. And yet he springs, he runs to greet the strangers. And Sarah begins to direct the preparation of this grand feast. The story is very important to the rabbis, who wanted to understand every fine detail of how do we welcome people? How do we make it our own? How do we do what they did? And those rabbis, they argued over every moment, as they like to do, including the food. How much bread was served? How much meat was served? How much wine? What makes a welcome a welcome? My personal favorite comment comes from Rashi. Rashi reads the line in the Torah where it says they prepared a calf, tender and choice. And Rashi reads it as that they were preparing calf's tongue with mustard. This was a delicacy in Rashi's time and continues to be so for us in our Jewish communities at least. But is that really what Abraham and Sarah were preparing for the strangers? Maybe? Probably not. Probably not. But the point is this: the rabbis used the moment in Torah to learn and teach something crucial and central to the Jewish spirit, and that is to welcome. Yes, from the very beginning of our history, it is clear that food has been a central part of welcoming. It's still true today. We come by it honestly. I have felt very well fed. But what makes Abraham and Sarah such good models is that their welcome was devoid of any judgment. They did not wait to see who approached their camp. Their welcome was eager and earnest and also second nature to them. This is just what they do for anyone. I've only been here a few months, but I can honestly say that the Kol Ami family has taken up the mantle of welcoming from our earliest ancestors. Arms have been thrown wide, and I have been welcomed, thankfully, with maximal food and minimal feet washing. Thank you. But you didn't welcome me just because I'm a new rabbi in the community. One of the pervasive themes I heard over and over again during my welcome gatherings proves this point. At each gathering, I asked a version of this question: how long have you been a part of Kol Ami? What made you come here, and what has kept you here? Every time, I heard at least one person share a version of this story. When we arrived, we walked into, insert moment here, services, religious school, the ECP, the office on a Thursday morning. And we didn't know anyone. But almost immediately, someone came up and greeted us. But they didn't just greet us. It wasn't cursory. They asked if they could sit with us at services. They asked us to join them for dinner afterwards. They wanted to set up a play date for the kids or arrange a carpool or get coffee. They asked sincerely to get to know us, and we've been here ever since. And then here is the real beauty, because those same people telling that story always follow it up by saying how proud they are that now they can be the person doing that for others. That they can be the ones offering that welcome to someone else, carrying on the tradition from generation to generation in this community. That is the story of Kol Ami. It's not just about being warm and welcoming for a 0.5-second hello and moving on. Together, we create an environment of welcome, of comfort, of truly knowing one another. As the summer fades and the fall begins, don't forget this important part of who we are. It is easy to get carried away with the busyness of life that returns in the fall, but now is the time to double down. Double down on the spirit of welcome, especially as the high holidays approach and these walls will be open and our sanctuary will be filled. I have experienced firsthand how powerful it is to be welcomed by this community. I can't wait to help carry on this legacy with all of you as the year continues.